Okay, this is going to be an alternative route to reflexive reading. However, I'm going to be doing it through video. Okay, so it's going to be reflective watching. So if you want to know about reflexive reading, listen to that video. Just added this little bit here to do with Hippocratic Oath. That's the end bit of it. Effectively, there are two principles. These are the two positive versions of the Hippocratic Oath. We've got social transparency, and which corresponds to what are they? Medical confidentiality, and in terms of non-maleficence, I do no harm. We have unilateral beneficence. Okay, those are the two principles: social transparency and beneficence. Okay, so with those two principles, let's go forwards. My name is David Pinto, and I am wanting to share with you a method for improving our social well-being globally by effectively providing a little method, very small little method, which potentially can bridge the East and the West, the kind of the philosophy and practices that have evolved in the East, involving Buddhism and various other kinds of practices, and the methodology which is dominant in the West, which is fundamentally scientific. Now, I'm going to tell you a story to start with. So this is going to be divided into three parts, because we are going to be introducing three social facts. And the first social fact I shall be introducing using a puzzle, a game, okay, which you won't be able to play, but at least I can tell you the story about it. And you'll be able to relate it to other experiences that you might have had. So, the person who is joining us is not clear at this moment, but will become clear as we go forwards. Okay? So we're going to divide this into three parts. Now, the third part is so fundamental, it's so beyond our ability to conceive, that we're going to leave that for the third. And in fact, we're going to introduce a few little thought experiments and in fact reality experiences. If you want to find out about reflexive reading, you just watch a video and kind of play along, that's fine. But this time, we're going to do it quite differently. Okay. Now, when I finished my social anthropology degree, my first degree, I was meant to be doing pure maths. I was still interested in how do we engage socially. Okay, and so I'd had enough theory, which was great. Postmodernism, all the way up to Bourdieu, fantastic. From Malinowski to Evans Pritchard to Levi-Strauss, and then the postmodernist, various kinds, but Bourdieu was the main one. But then finishing off from university, it was like, right, let's just get stuck in, okay, socially. Let's just have fun. And I ended up at the Science Festival. And in the Science Festival, I took part in a thing called the Mathematical Travelling Circus, where I was a science communicator. And what would happen, there was like lots of different puzzles, okay, throughout two rooms, or a room. And then the public would come in and just wander around and have a look at these different puzzles and games and activities, try and explain a bit of maths. Whole variety of maths going on. And my favourite table was a table of puzzles, okay, or wooden puzzles, okay, or 3D or 2D dissections, okay. And you might know of this one. It's kind of difficult for me to represent it. Okay, that's one piece, okay, that's another piece, and not represented. It's a bit tricky for me to kind of like show you, because obviously it's better on a table. Oh, here's another piece now. This one's a little bit trickier. All right. That's kind of a little bit of a clue. And what would happen is that people would pass by, and before you got to this one, which is the Soma cube, a specific dissection, which you might or might not be able to recognize, Google it, have a look at it. And before that, there were simpler puzzles. Like there was a puzzle with only two pieces. No, two pieces. I remember one with two. You just had to put it in orientation to make something, and then three, and then it was like a Soma cube. And people would go dutifully along this table and kind of poke around. And then there were, okay, so they'd get to this one, for example. I really liked this one because there was such a level of complexity that was like, oh, this is quite interesting. And what people would do when they would get there is they would look at this thing and go, okay, give it a go, boop, 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 and then inevitably fail within a reasonable short distance. And then they just start flipping over the cards. And the cards would show one part of the solution. People would copy that. Another part of the solution, copy that. Third part, so they'd flip through, put it together and go, and move on. And that was it. Done. And so, because I actually enjoyed this, I watched them from afar. I said, when they give them a chance, and then as they were going to reach over, to flip it over, or just to walk away, I'd leap in. Okay. I would say hello, hello, and I would make them feel comfortable that I was approaching them. It's quite a little bit of a trick to do so. But I learned that I was actually quite good at that because I was fairly innocent back then, and I just genuinely loved the puzzle. And so I would be like, right, could you just hold on from you looking at those solutions, because I'm not convinced that that's the best way to explore this. Can we just try something? And I developed this little process, okay, and I wanted to share it with them. So the first thing I'd like to do is, could you take the pieces out, have a look at them, right, and then could you split them into two groups? That was it. Can you split these two into two groups? And now, nearly everybody, small children, old people, and so on and so forth, and especially in groups, you have family groups, and so it was quite interesting to see the dynamics within a social group, trying to solve these things. And nearly every time, they would separate them into two groups, and it would, I think, in every case, the two groups were identical. And they would have pieces like this on one side, and pieces like this, and I think there's only two pieces like this on the other side, all right? And I would say, okay, and I think I said at some point, I can't remember, was it before or after, I would say, right, so I think I originally started saying, could you put them into easy and hard pieces? I didn't tell them what easy pieces or what hard pieces were. And they would always split them into these parts. And then I noticed sometimes when I talk to people, that they actually had different ideas of which ones were hard, which ones were easy. Okay, the majority thought these were the easy pieces and these were the hard pieces. Okay, but for some reason or other, there were one or two people that thought these were the easy pieces, which is quite interesting. Keep that in mind. So they would separate these things, and I say, right, if when you put all these pieces together, what do you want to be the last piece? Do you want it to be an easy or a hard piece? And they'd be like, well, an easy piece. All right. Again, the majority would say, well, put in the easy because it would be easier to put in. And for those that went, oh, hard piece, because they kind of left it for the end, I'd be like, all right, so at the end, you want to put in a hard piece? I mean, they go, well, maybe not, maybe not. And for this kind of solution, I'd be like, okay. Now again, majority are moving along quite nicely. And if other people, they thought that, for example, this was one of the easy pieces, I'd be like, okay, and then I would kind of manipulate my language to be different, just so that basically they put these pieces together. Now the easy pieces. And what you would do is say, well, choose two pieces. Oh, sorry, do these pieces, do the hard pieces first, and end up with these pieces. And so there's only two of these hard pieces. Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. Oh, there's three. There's three of these. Okay, three. And for some reason, this one is not so hard. These are a bit tricky. So I said, well, if you put these together, okay, put these three together in any orientation, so that is going to be within, I haven't even explained it. What's the point of a cube? You're trying to make a cube. The puzzle is to create a cube. Okay, so they know they're trying to make a cube. Okay, I didn't even explain that. Brilliant science communicator. But this is me relating a story. I'm terrible at relating stories. So if you put it together, for example, this would be an orientation. Okay, maybe this could be forming a cube. That could be forming a cube as well. And then these two in a different way. Could that form a cube? Yes. Oh, yeah. That could. Oh no, that. No, I don't think that could make a cube. I don't think so. No, because that was good. All right. So there's a couple of orientations. Oh, that could. Oh, that's quite nice, right? And so the point is, they put it together, and they put these three, and you go right. Once you put the hard pieces together, all right. Carry on. And so they do this. They go blah, 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 and then they put the other pieces, and quite often they go do, and it would work. Okay, sometimes it would be like, oh, that didn't work, and I go, right, maybe your original orientation is a bit tricky. At some point, if it hasn't come to a solution, maybe that, and so they'd go back to this, put it like that, okay, right, and then they'd start constructing it, and again, 9 times out of 10, it would work. Very, very rarely it didn't come up with a solution. Now, the exciting thing about this, right, was that they were going to just look through the card and it would just be telling them. They're just following, spoon feed the solution. In this way, I basically told them to separate it into two pieces, two groups. I didn't say how. I didn't define what the two groups were. So that's a variable, let's call it. And then I would suggest the strategy. And the strategy is the hard pieces first to start with. Okay. Actually, I even led that question. I would say, well, what do you want to have at the end? Oh, an easy piece. Okay, great. So let's put the hard pieces together. Right. And so they put the hard pieces together and it would work. And they feel very satisfied. And that would be good enough. Okay, but then I would kind of like want to reinforce that. And I said, right, well, great, well done, thank you. Well, that's quite remarkable, and it is. I mean, I'm amazed by it. And I said, right, some people think, do you think that I helped, did I tell you the solution? Did I tell you the solution for this? And they go, no. Isn't that interesting? So you did it, you definitely did that. It's like, yeah, I did it, right, okay. But I did ask a few questions, didn't I? And so, yeah, so what did I actually help you with? Okay, and they're like, so once they've reinforced it was them, and it definitely wasn't me that gave them the solution, how did they work it out? And is there a method? And that method that I described to them, which I tried to make it with as bleak clues as possible, that method helped them solve it. And the method was, when you're dealing with a complex situation, try to deal with the complicated bits first, and then hopefully towards the end, the easy pieces are going to be easy to put in. And for some circumstances and some levels of problem, certain kinds of problem, that's a good way of going about it. Sometimes it's better to start doing some easy solutions and then deal with the hard ones. But in this case, this worked out really nicely. And so what I wanted to reinforce was there is a way to communicate abstraction, methods, ideas that help us do things. That's what I wanted to kind of share. And that means that they have that they can also share with others. So without actually having to share the solution, they can share the method by which the solution can be arrived at. Okay, and they loved it. I loved it. They loved their solution. They loved the fact that they'd come up with it. They loved the fact that they actually got this method to help everybody else. And in fact, this method applies to other things. Okay, so I loved this. Okay, that's why I eventually became a teacher. I decided to do a PGCE and became a teacher because I loved this. I loved the release of energy that happened when they were kind of working it out and they were about to give up, and then coming up with an alternative, communicating it, helping the social contact, the relationship. If they were, father with children, they would have a nice relationship there going on, and and they're going forwards feeling more confident about themselves, and a method by which it's not just work out that problem or dissections, any problem. That was it, a few minutes, that was it. So it was uplifting. Okay, I could tell from the energy, especially with kids, and you can with adults, because you see adults a little bit, they've been through school, they're like, I'm not so sure. Okay, and then they're feeling that you can tell that, and it's really nice. And that's the kind of feeling, I think, that's why teachers become teachers. Well, they want to help, they want to have that kind of effect. Now, I took a little bit of time doing that, probably way too long, but it kind of gives you an idea of why I do what I do. Now, why am I describing that? Now, if that is interesting enough in itself, would you share this? Do you know anybody that would listen to this and go, oh yeah, that's quite interesting. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm actually going to get one of these cubes. I'm going to try it out. Or, an educator and you're like, oh, that's quite interesting. I want my friend to have a look at this. Or whatever, right? You know somebody that's going to be interested. Or maybe the psychology of it. Okay. Is it interesting enough, what you heard, that you pass this on? I probably should compress this to about 4 minutes. But there you have it. It's 14, 15. I might be able to reduce it. But that's it. Is this interesting enough that you would like to pass this on? Okay, because if you do, then we can go into the second part. Because if you've actually made the decision that you think this is valuable, you'll carry on to the next part. Okay, because you think it's valuable. But what I'm trying to say is, if it's valuable to you enough already, would you pass this on? And that decision is important, because it's a bit like giving the method to the kids and the adults and the people to solve the Soma cube, I'm giving you this as a method to help anybody with certain levels of problem. Okay? And so if that is valuable in itself, can you pass it on? Okay. Because this act of passing it on is what I'm going to be talking about in the next one. But if you don't pass it on, it's just going to be information. Okay, do you get what I'm saying? It's just going to be information. It's going to be more information. Whereas if you decide, stop, or maybe there'll be a pause, or maybe there's going to be another, the videos are down below. If this is interesting enough, right, go back to the app, Sqale, share, pop, pop, pop. Send some money, add some money, send it. So this thing has a chance of going viral. Viral means, however, that not everybody's going to want to watch this, of course, but at least it'll find its audience through your actions. Anyway, I'm going to talk about that in a second, right? So the first one is basically, you like this idea. Okay, I like this idea. I like the experience. And maybe you've got something, you share it with somebody because they also, you've had an experience like this. And what I've just explained demonstrated and described it quite nicely. Wow. Okay, so that was the first part. Okay. Do I have to go into any more details about it? And is it like a reflexive reading? Really, there is something about the co-presence. The reason why it worked with me and with these kids and the people is because I joined them at the level that they were at, which was the puzzle. Okay, they were confused, and there was like a mixture of motivation, wanting to solve it, a failure that they hadn't been able to solve it, curiosity about how it would actually come together, then the social engagement about a stranger coming up at their moment of vulnerability, but offering help. And so the method by which I came up to them, and I was quite young then, so generally, younger people approaching, I was 21, 22, most people are not afraid of 21, 22-year-olds. But still they were vulnerable, and just reassuring them it's okay, and being at their level to go, it's okay. Okay, I'm actually interested in this. I'm interested in how this is going to turn out. Okay, and there's a lightness to it. So whatever the heaviness is, there's a lightness to it that one brings. And entering into that social relationship, and I think there was back then I was informed by a sense that we're just doing this together. Okay, so there's a correspondence. I'm not going to tell them anything per se, certainly not the solution. I'm just going to draw attention to certain things, ask them to do a thing like split them into two groups, and that would be, in fact for a lot of people, that would be enough. And put one of the groups, the harder groups, together and the whole thing would work. Okay, very minimal instruction. It wasn't instruction, but it was, well, maybe it was instruction, right, method. And there's a correspondence of engagement, and certainly the uplifting, and certainly the feeling that they had. I'm kind of going over it, but I'm trying to give you a chance to make a decision whether you want to share this. And there's a correspondent relationship, and describing it very accurately and placing it very accurately that they had actually put it together. But the thing I contributed was a method, and that method is something which allows them at a meta level to recognize what they can do. And that, again, was uplifting at the moment for them and for me. So we really dived into the experience of the vulnerability they had and the failure, their success, the means of the success, and the potential opening up of their confidence in a wider world of problems. Okay, and that's a correspondence of experience which is uplifting. That is equivalent to the first social fact. Okay, it worked between us. Couldn't have done it by myself. They couldn't have done it by themselves. It worked between us. Okay, this is valuable enough. Please share it forwards. Take some time to do that, and add a little bit of cash to do so. And I'll see you for the second part. Cool. Thank you.